Hey there, community. This is Boo, one of the community evangelists with the DevCentral team, and you're tuning in to DevCentral Connects, our weekly live stream where we chat and talk to the community and share some of the good news happening around the IT industry as well as stuff that's happening within F5 and the F5 community. So, really excited to chat with everybody today. We got a number of news articles that we wanted to go over. Actually, it's been an interesting time in the industry. We have a lot to chat about today. We'll also be chatting with Tom Mcgonagall. We did a little bit of a discussion with him, and we'll roll some of that a little bit later on something that he has going called GitNops, which is a interesting project around automation with networking. And I'll be bringing on Jason in just a moment here, but a couple of things that I want to remind you of. You may be watching us right now from something like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, wherever you're following us from right now. If you happen to stumble upon us and you're not subscribed to us or following us, please make sure you do that. Either hit like or also hit the subscribe button. So on YouTube, it'll be down here. You want to make sure that is hit so that it's not red, but it's actually gray right now. If you're following us from LinkedIn, make sure you hit follow on there, hit like, and also drop a comment. We'd love to hear from the community. I know we chat with everybody in the community already on community.f5.com, but love to hear from you in the live chat. So actually, if you want to, you could right now drop into the live chat. Where are you watching from right now? I know many folks in our community are actually from around the world, international. About 30% of the folks are actually from North America, and everybody else is international. And so we'd love to hear where you're watching us from today. Even drop a little flag emoticon if you can do that. Somebody did that last week, and we got to try to figure out which flag that was actually. And we had to kind of squint because it was a little bit small on my screen. Hopefully, you don't have to do that today. A couple of other things I want to tell you about. I did just mention community.f5.com, and on that community is all of the members of DevCentral, folks like myself, Jason, Aubrey, Peter Silva, and then the rest of the DevCentral worldwide community is on there as well. So you can go on there. There's message forums on there. There's a number of technical articles that are published on there as well. And then what you'll also find on there is a group called DevCentral Connects, and that's specifically where we share lots of information around the show. So what are the topics that are coming up, and then also what are the topics that we discuss on the show as well. So be sure to check that out under the groups. And when you head over there, you'll just have to make sure you hit join group because you won't see anything at first. So you sign into community.f5.com. It's a free membership, and then go into the DevCentral Connects group and hit join on there, and then join the discussion on there. We'd love to see you there. A couple other things. I'm going to talk a little bit about events here. Most recently, myself, Aubrey, and Peter went out to the Black Hat event in Las Vegas. We have a ton of content on there. You'll find that in a summary article on community.f5.com. And if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, you'll see all of the content published on there as well. We had a great time talking to the community, talking to F5 partners, talking to F5 employees, and recording some of that content. And then we also have a couple of other events that are coming up, just waiting for things to be finalized, but looks like I'm heading out to an event in October on my own. I think Aubrey's heading out to an event in October on his own as well. We're kind of dividing and conquering on that one. And then not sure on Peter, there might be one that he may or may not be going to as well. So look out for that content. Be sure to subscribe again to the YouTube channel. We'll publish the content on there, and also our individual handles as well. All of that info should be down in the description box. And then one more thing, I'm just going to, before we bring on Jason, share with everybody that our F5 Office of the CTO recently released a book, which is Enterprise Architecture for Digital Business. Really interesting book on how people are architecting their environments now to take advantage of digital transformation. So the first chapter of that book is Geng Lin, and I was able to have a discussion with him, and there's a video about that. So I'm going to roll that, and then we'll bring on Jason in just a second here. Digital transformation has accelerated nearly tenfold in recent years as both a business and technology journey, yet most white papers and how-to guides still focus solely on the business side rather than including methods for optimizing the technology behind it. So, Gang Lin, Lori McVitie, and a few others from F5's Office of the CTO wrote a book to show CIOs, IT directors, and architects how to balance both the business and the technology concerns successfully. I'll be interviewing the authors of this book to provide an opportunity for readers to discover more about the topics covered in each chapter. In this first interview, I'll be chatting with Gang Lin, F5's Chief Technology Officer. He'll be providing an overview of the book and the why behind his idea for it in the first place. Enjoy. Well, hello, Jason. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. It was over here in North America. We have something called Labor Day, and it's recognized in both Canada and the U.S. And so we both had a long weekend, right?
It was a nice long weekend. In fact, that I had 2 long weekends in a row because I went camping last weekend. So last week was only Thursday and Friday for me in the office, and this week is also going to be a short week. So, there's good and bad in that because sometimes like, oh, I got this like mountain of stuff I got to get done, and now it's a short week, and but it's also really nice to get away and decompress.
Yeah, for sure. I spent some time up in Whistler, British Columbia, with one of the F5 Labs folks. Actually, Sander Vinberg joined me up there. Or I joined him up there. It was his idea to head up there, so that was a good time. And before we move on to anything else, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the folks who did comment with where they're dialing in from or watching from. First of all, Jason O'Fallon, Illinois.
That's right. Woo!
All right. And we got Pratik coming in from India. Aubrey, Rochester, New York, aka Winterfell, home of the garbage plate. We got Sebastian, friend of the show, DevCentral MVP as well, coming in from Toronto.
Sebastian's so on
And
top of it. He's from Toronto in LinkedIn and YouTube.
yeah,
So
that's true. We
what's the
got
time
double
difference there
Sebastian.
on the two feeds? I'm curious. Are they in sync or a couple
Uh,
seconds off?
yeah, I mean the timestamp shows similar, so it shows 8:33 on both of the 8:33 Pacific time on both of those. Tom Mcgonagall coming in from Boston. He is so if folks didn't pick that up before, Tom Mcgonagall is kind of our feature discussion that we'll be having later on today about GitNops. And so Tom McGonagall's name is right there. That's his LinkedIn. You can go connect with him on there, or you can hit him up on GitHub, which is github.com/McGonagall is his username. A couple other ones here. We got Chad coming in from Vegas. Good to hear from you, Chad. We got the research team out in Los Angeles as well. And Gunavant from India. Awesome. And then here we go. One thing I'll mention here, Aubrey is looking like he's heading to KubeCon. And so if you are heading to KubeCon, I'm sure that's going to be a big event. That's in Detroit this year. And every year it just grows and grows and grows. That project is its own huge thing. It's its own VM world, I think, at this point, perhaps. So that'll be an exciting one for him to head to. And then mine, actually, I just got an email just moments ago. My hotel is all sorted out. So I am heading to Singapore in October for the GovWare event, which is a huge event out in Singapore, actually. And so that'll be great to cover as well.
Nice short
Um,
flight for you there.
22 hours of
Woo.
travel. Um,
Do you fly through Japan and then down, or
I
is there a
went with
straight flight for
Japan,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
There is a direct flight. However, that direct flight only runs on certain days and not the
Uh,
days that I need to travel. And so I missed out on that.
how long is that
That's
direct flight? Is that like a 16, 17 hour?
the direct flight, I believe, is 17 or 18 hours. I could see. Yeah. If I left
Man,
a day earlier, I could have been on the direct flight, but But
Not
that's
not that
okay.
it's a news story that we're talking about, but I remember reading an article about just the ergonomic and human concerns of being in an airplane for that long, and they were talking about how they design the food to be, and I don't remember the proportions, but like how they manage the carbs and fats and proteins so that it doesn't sit in you and
Oh,
doesn't
really?
cause swelling and all those kinds of things, so that it's I guess a more comfortable experience, as comfortable as it can be sitting in a chair for 18 hours. So it was
That
really
is,
interesting how they designed the air and the lights and the food and all that for carrying people that long.
yeah, that's very thoughtful of them.
Yeah,
I'm sure I will appreciate that when I'm on the plane for that long. I did not get middle seat. I selected my seats, and I'm not in the middle seat, so I'm just happy about that.
do you have a best flight ever story?
Best flight ever. Um, I have like worst flight ever stories, but best flight ever, I'm trying to think of now. I
Well, while
don't
you're thinking,
know if
I'll
one
tell
stands
mine.
out. Sure.
I was on a flight from LA to Sydney. It was 15 and a half hours. And, I've been on one or two first class flights here in the United States. And so, their first class domestic here is really not all that great. It's like what economy probably should be. Uh, but I was on a flight from 15 and a half hours from LA to Sydney, and I was in premium economy on Virgin Australia, and the seat was super comfortable. They had like a little foot rub thing where you take your shoes off, and
Wow.
and it was kind of arced, so you could kind of rest your feet,
Mm,
and then like every hour and a half they alternated bringing you a hot towel and a cool towel, so you could freshen up, and they had like a little gallery for premium economy where you could go just grab what you wanted, like snack bars, sodas, waters, whatever. But there was also, a gallery so you could go stand every now and then if you wanted to. And anyway,
nice.
for it being premium economy, it was a pretty tremendous experience compared to even, domestic first class. That's probably my best flight I've ever had.
Wow. Okay. That sets the bar pretty high for premium economy. That's cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you my worst flight. My worst flight was flying into Thunder Bay, Ontario. I used to work for a mining company, and the only thing that made it the worst flight was just the pilot trying to land through a thunderstorm, and had to take a second pass because the first pass wasn't going to go, and it was just turbulence for like a good 20 minutes or so. Um, Only time I'd ever felt like I was almost gonna get sick on a plane, but that was, I guess that was par for the course out there, so it was, yeah, that was one that I do remember as a worst flight. Um,
Thunderstorm into Thunder Bay. How appropriate.
yeah, exactly, and yeah, from there, I was going to a mine site, so then I had to hop on an even smaller plane, to head in that plane wasn't too small, but then the plane into the mine site was really small. Um but yeah, memorable times earlier on in my career getting out to these sites. So I don't have a great transition for this or segue for this. We're just going to jump into the news that we wanted to talk about today. So we have a couple articles that we have selected, and this first one here, let me zoom this in for folks. This is I'll post a link for this in the DevCentral Connects group. And I thought this isn't necessarily news actually. This is just a really interesting article that I came upon. And this I found this on Twitter thanks to Josh Besignul, who is a DevCentral MVP. And this is this guy's Carlos Fenolasa's um, trials and tribulations on his self-hosting email. He has hosted his own email since 1999, I believe, is in here. Um, and he's just talking about what it's like to actually host a mail server these days. And Jason, I don't know if you've ever had experience doing this before. I know really early on in my career, I was trying to learn Microsoft Exchange to get through my MCSE. I have an MCSE for 2000, I believe. So that's a paper that's sitting over in the corner here. But I wanted to do that. So for a while, I ran my own mail server, and he's just going through, like, it's not easy to do today. Like, if you get on a blacklist, getting off of a blacklist when you're just a small one person email server is almost impossible at this point. And all the other things that happen with trying to do that. And so, what he's ultimately saying is it's an oligopoly now. Like, you kind of have to move on to one of the big email services in order to be able to still be on the internet. Because you know what, when email rules are blocking you, they don't hold the email, they just drop the email. So you don't
Yep.
know if it actually went through. It's just gone, and you don't know what happened to it. Any thoughts on that, Jason?
Yeah, I did mail. I worked for a few startups way back in the day, and had a hand in it. I wasn't completely responsible for it, but when you think about protocols and applications that you're directly responsible for, and there's one set of rules for that, but then it's like over time, all these services get more and more rules added to them that really have nothing to do with the delivery of mail itself. And I remember even with with F5 when they're setting up new services and domains and all that, there's so many little ticky tack things that you have to be considerate of for mail to even flow. And so it's one of those things that, is it a just a knowledge problem, and or is it a new rule problem, or is it the big tech and the man trying to stick their thumb down on you so you have to pay for their services, and it's hard to tell. But certainly if he's done it for 23 years or whatever, and I read his thread on Twitter yesterday. Certainly, I'm sure he knows his stuff, and so it's sad that you can't seem to operate without you know someone putting their thumb down on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, interesting article. We will post that into the DevCentral Connects group for everybody to check out. Next article, one that you brought up, Jason, violence as a service on the Krebs blog here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and really, I don't have a whole lot of technical stuff to say about this one. It's just, man, can we all just be nice to each other? There is there is so much that goes into to corporate policies and all that. I mean, we have entire industries now because people just can't be nice to each other, and then it goes a step further into stuff like this, where people are legitimately hiring thugs to go, physically intimidate other people. And you see that in the old union stuff and crime stuff, and it's like intimidation is just part of the gig.
mhm.
But to see that even amongst the virtual world, moving into the physical world in order to intimidate others, it's just sad. It makes me mad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if folks are on anything social these days, they would have seen the stuff happening with Kiwi Farms over the past week, and that's a really sad whole set of events, and a whole sad situation, and how it's going. And we don't have to dive into all that stuff, but the fact that any of that exists is just blows my mind that people would want to do that.
Yeah.
We got time for maybe one more article, and I don't want to miss this one. And this is Peter Eckersley, who I didn't know the name, but I know the projects, and so unfortunately, somebody that we lost last week. And for folks that don't know, he's actually. Oh, sorry, let me blow this up. He's actually the person that's responsible for. I know this project, Panopticlick, really cool project. If folks haven't checked it out before, you can go on and you can see the uniqueness of your web browser, and even just opening up a brand new fresh computer and then just surfing a few things, and you can have two side by side exact same computer, and within a few moments those computers develop uniqueness that can be tracked on the internet. And so as much as we worry about cookies and whatnot, there's so many things that actually track your uniqueness out there that just clearing your cookies isn't going to make you unique on the internet in itself. And Let's Encrypt, the most ubiquitous project that he created, Let's Encrypt. There was a number. Oh yeah, over 280 million websites, a billion certificates issued. So he's a big part of the internet, really, and made a huge impact. And so it's really unfortunate to hear of his passing.
Yeah. What a contributor. You talk about Let's Encrypt and what it's done for the industry, and you look back, and it's not just that you don't have to pay for certs. That's a big part of it, but the automated nature of what Let's Encrypt brought to the industry with security is, I think, the bigger contribution than the fact that it's free. Although it being free brought a lot of the rest of the internet into the equation for securing sites.
Absolutely. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and transition into our discussion with Tom Mcgonagall. I'm just going to roll a bit of a transition here, and you'll see him in just a moment.
If you're not paying attention to API security, you've effectively opened all the doors, all the windows, and put a sign that says, "Take everything I own." That's the biggest takeaway this week. API security sounds like it's something that belongs to the development team, but I guarantee within the systems that you manage today that are core to what you manage as security, you probably have 80 APIs that are open, waiting, and willing to give away the crown jewels. So that's what I would do. I would start looking at that. I would start securing that. That's number one on my list of to-dos.
Hey there, community. In this video, we are going to be talking to Tom Mcgonagall. He is an enterprise solutions engineer with GitHub, and we're going to be talking about GitNops today. For this conversation, I'm joined by Jason Rom. And Tom, would love to get a little bit of background on yourself, what you've been up to in the past couple of years, and maybe what's brought you to GitHub.
Oh, it's first of all, thank you both for having me on your program. It's such a pleasure to see you again. It's been way too long. It's been way too long in COVID, and I'm just so happy to be here talking to you today about a passion project of mine called GitNops. And after leaving F5, I actually went to Nginx, which eventually was acquired by F5, and then I went back to CloudBees, and then I was at Spinnaker, if anyone's familiar with that project, the CD company Spinnaker. I was there for a couple of years, and now I just got recruited by GitHub to be as you mentioned, enterprise solutions engineer, and I'm thrilled. I've been a paid customer of GitHub's since 2010, so I don't have to pay them anymore. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah, that's awesome. Comes with the special employee package, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty cool. So you haven't been at GitHub for too long, but you've already started off on a little project inside of GitHub there. So maybe you can kind of introduce that and talk us through it.
Yeah, certainly. So GitNops is GitOps for network automation. And so there's this concept, and it's very familiar to me, that you could use the principles and practices of GitOps. I think we should talk about exactly what those are, but you can use these principles and practices of GitOps, and you can apply them to X, right? Like, what is X? And I have a couple of funny examples. I have a resume sticker that I created. It's actually on my wall. It's below my my marriage, not offer, but my marriage
vows.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is the vows, and so I have this sticker that I created, and you can use GitOps workflow for creating it and uploading it to Canva and then leveraging it. But GitNops, once again, is Git operations for network automation. And I have a workflow that leverages GitHub's technologies to expedite and create these workflows to manage network automation, network devices.
So I guess this kind of fills a need in that other automation workflow tools aren't necessarily geared towards network stuff, right? Like in your time at F5, I remember you were building things, but you were kind of coming up with them with whatever tools you had, and this is kind of really focused on the network automation piece.
So the GitNops is entirely on network automation. So whether it's an F5 device or a network device, an Nginx device, or if it's a Cisco router or a switch, it's really supposed to be a tool for interacting with the API. And so I'm leveraging the Postman project Newman extensively. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm running on premise using GitHub on-premise runners. I'm running on-premise Newman scripts to actuate and activate the various network devices. And so, I think the very first question is why, right? What's the benefit? What's the collaboration you get with social coding, right? It's the collaboration. And so if you are working with your partners in the network team, you have that collaborative ability to check each other's code, to issue what are called pull requests, to determine these changes and these config management changes, and use an SCM. That's an old expression for source code management system. On your network devices, on your network code. But it's and so I'm just going to pause and see if either of you guys have any questions about this kind of conceptually.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe for the audience, we can kind of define a couple of things there, and maybe just starting from the beginning too. So when we're talking about APIs, and hopefully people are at the point where they understand what APIs are, but a couple of the tools that you mentioned, Postman and Newman, maybe we can review those for a second.
Yeah, certainly. So Postman is this extremely well venture capitalized company. They've taken on, I believe, $500 million in VC, and they've created this one of my favorite tools I'm a tool fool, which is kind of a funny way to put it, but I'm really into tooling. I'm really into products. When I worked at F5, I was in product management, and it's one of my favorite tools, frankly, one of my top 3 favorite tools. And what it is it's a it's this work show manager for APIs and actuating APIs and interacting with them and scripting them and configuring them and just interacting with them. And then they've layered all this the socialization concept on top of it, so you can share these workflows very, very easily, very, very succinctly, very clearly in their ecosystem. And then there's actually integrations with GitHub, and there's it's really quite the infrastructural management tool. And really where it exposes itself is, for example, with an F5 big IP, you can hit the API of the big IP to create pools and nodes and VIPs and interact with them and manage them in a sophisticated way. But really the devil's in the details in that principles and practices of GitOps, right? So GitNops is my thing, but GitOps it's for managing Kubernetes. And so I'm kind of stealing that idea and applying it to network automation.
And then Newman?
And Newman is a Node.js implementation that runs your Postman workflows. And so it's a CLI designed for CI/CD systems like Github Actions. And so Newman will take your Postman scripts, your workflows, and then run them on the CLI in that Github Actions runner space that would be on premise in your data center.
Awesome. And then maybe we can talk about GitHub Actions for a second too, unless you were defining it later on, but can you kind of compare and contrast, what you mean by GitHub Actions and then having GitHub Actions on premises as well? Like, what's that dynamic?
Yeah, so really the way to think about GitHub Actions is that it's a CI/CD solution. And so, I spent a number of years at CloudBees, the Jenkins company, so that's a CI solution, and so primarily a CI solution. And so that's where you build and test your software, and then CD is where you deploy it, essentially to production. And so with the Spinnaker project, for example, Netflix uses Spinnaker to deploy 10,000 times a day, or more, right? It's kind of unknown exactly how much they're deploying, but they're just pushing out these like one-line code changes to production. And I personally never had a problem with Netflix. I'm not sure either of you guys, literally it always works, right? And so part of that secret sauce is the CD. And so that conceptual idea of CI/CD is being implemented inside the GitHub project, inside the GitHub product. So you have this really great, wonderful, extensible, highly extensible CI/CD solution. And I'm implementing network automation using it.
Okay, very cool. And then you can bring that, what's built inside the GitHub project, you can bring that on-prem? All right. So that is just the first bit of, I believe it's a 28-minute conversation. And so we were just starting to define what the project looks like and then moving on from there. So there's a lot more to that conversation, and that can be found on youtube.com/DevCentral for the entirety of that conversation. It was a great chat with Tom. Like when he was working at F5, I loved being able to pick his brain. And so we'll be able to pick his brain over at GitHub as well.
Yeah, and I think I say something in that conversation a little bit later. I was watching it back. It's like, Oh, I'm there, but I have nothing to say. So I
Yeah,
promise I
no,
say something.
once we kind of dived into the project, then you jumped into action, Jason. So yeah, that's a cool project. Tom Mcgonagall is hanging out in the live chat. If you did not see before, and this is his full name spelling if you wanted to get in touch with him on LinkedIn. But as he's mentioned in the video, you can find him at github.com/Mcgonagall, and his Twitter handle is @Mcgonagall as well. And then the project is at is just at gitnops.com as well. So that is an open project. He said that people can contribute and get
Yeah,
involved.
get involved.
As can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to
Absolutely.
Sebastian's point, love me some Postman. Yeah, Postman's a good tool. I've actually been using a Thunder client within VS Code more than Postman lately. A lot of the same features, maybe not as feature rich as Postman, but you can run jobs in VS Code directly. You can build testing into there as well. So don't have to leave one tool to go find another tool, which I like. But yeah, not knocking on Postman. Postman's great. But if you do a lot of what you do in VS Code, there's the 80-20, maybe 80% of what you need is already there for you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you might want to look at is the F5 plugin for VS Code, which had an update this week, thanks to Ben Gordon maintaining that.
Yes, I think we need to have Ben back to talk about all the latest and greatest here pretty soon.
Yeah, for sure. What else did we miss any comments here? No, we've got the research team has inserted Tom's LinkedIn profile on there, so you can get connected with him on there as well. Great guy to chat with, which we had the fortune of doing. So check out that video, youtube.com/DevCentral. Otherwise, I think that's it for this week, Jason. Thanks for joining me. Cool.
As always,
again,
good time.
Yeah. If folks did not pick it up before, head over to community.f5.com, look for the group called DevCentral Connects, and you can comment on any if you missed the live chat here and you're watching the replay right now, join us and have discussion around the news articles over on there or anything that you want to talk to us about. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today, and make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Bye now.
Take care, everyone.
Well, thanks for checking out that video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. You might want to check out one of these videos over here. And if you haven't already, go check out community.f5.com. This is where all the DevCentral Connects hosts hang out, as well as the rest of the community. It's free to sign up, and we'll see you there.